The first time my boss played that audio in front of everyone, my ex thought I was about to fall apart, and I let that silence do all the talking. Because the truth is, I didn't ruin my ex's life. My ex handed me the match and begged me to keep it warm. It started with a grocery receipt. Not the dramatic kind, just a crumpled strip of paper stuck to the bottom of a reusable bag, smudged with spinach and detergent and the kind of boring little purchases that mean we live together. We share a life. I found it on a Thursday night under the edge of our couch, right after my ex said the sentence that changed everything. Let's just be friends. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I didn't even raise my voice. I just stared at the receipt in my hand like it could translate what was happening in front of me. My name is Elowen. I'm 27 and I work as a patient coordinator at a busy dental office downtown, the kind of place where everyone's always smiling even when they're drowning. I'm good at keeping my voice calm. It's basically my job. So when my ex said, let's just be friends, I heard the subtext immediately. Not I respect you. Not I care about you. It was I still want access. My ex was sitting across from me at our kitchen table, hands folded like a therapist, posture gentle, eyes soft in a way that felt practiced. A candle was lit, one of mine, the warm vanilla kind. The one I bought because my ex said the apartment smelled too sterile. We're great together, my ex said, voice careful, just not in the way that lasts. I didn't answer right away. I watched my ex's fingers tap the table twice, like a metronome, like the whole speech had a rhythm. We have the same friends, my ex continued, same routines, same jokes. I don't want it to be awkward. I don't want to lose you. I finally spoke. So you want to end the relationship, but keep me? My ex flinched. When you say it like that, it sounds harsh. That's because it is harsh, I said, still quiet. There was a backpack by the door, packed, zipped, not halfway. Not I might leave later, packed like the decision had been made days ago, and this conversation was just the paperwork. My sister is picking me up, my ex said quickly like I wouldn't notice, just for a little while, until we sort out the living situation. The living situation, I repeated, and something cold slid down my spine. We were both on the lease. I paid more than half the bills. I stocked the fridge. I did the insurance calls, the renewal reminders, the hey, don't forget your appointment, texts that adults pretend don't matter until they're gone. My ex watched my face, waiting for the reaction that would make me easier to manage. I looked down at my hands. I looked at the grocery receipt. Then I looked up and said, okay. My ex's shoulders dropped in relief, so obvious it almost made me laugh. Okay, my ex echoed. Yeah, I said, perfect. We'll make it work like adults. The smile that appeared on my ex's face was not gratitude. It was victory. And that's when I understood the deal being offered. My ex gets freedom, and I keep providing comfort. That night, my ex left with the backpack and my candle still burning on the counter like a tiny, stupid memorial. I washed the mug my ex used, wiped down the table, and took the trash out like nothing happened. I even texted, drive safe, because I meant it. Friends should be safe. But the next morning taught me what my ex really meant by friends. It was early, too early, when my phone lit up with a message. Hey, hope you slept okay. Can you bring my work laptop? I forgot it. I stared at the screen, the polite tone, the casual expectation, like I was still the built-in assistant. Like the breakup was a costume change and my role stayed the same. I typed back, sure, I'll drop it at the front desk of your office on Monday. The reply came fast. Can't you bring it to my sister's? I need it today. I blinked. Not because I was confused, because I was seeing the shape of this pattern. The entitlement dressed up as friendliness. The assumption that my time was still communal property. I have plans, I wrote. What plans? My ex asked. That question did something to me. Not anger, something clearer. I wrote friend stuff. A pause, then, you're being weird. I didn't argue. I just set my phone down and made coffee, slow and deliberate. I let the quiet sit in my chest like a boundary settling into place. By noon, the messages had multiplied. A brunch invite, like nothing happened. Oh, we always do this. Oh, why are you being cold? I'm trying to be mature. And every time my ex used the same weapon, guilt with a smile. So I gave the same answer. Calm, consistent, and incredibly inconvenient. No thanks, I'm busy. That was when we were together. I could almost hear my ex's frustration through the screen. My ex didn't want friendship. My ex wanted boyfriend benefits with a friend label, minus any responsibility to me. That afternoon, I walked into my dental office and pasted on my professional smile. I answered calls. I soothed anxious patients. I scheduled appointments like nothing inside me was shifting. Then my coworker, sweet, nosy, harmless, leaned over my desk and whispered, you look lighter today. I almost told her the truth. I almost said, because I finally understand what I've been carrying. But I just smiled and said, I slept. That was scene 1, the breakup and the first boundary. Scene 2 came with a key. 2 nights later, I came home to the sound of the shower running, not mine. The bathroom door was closed. Steam curled under the frame like a secret. I froze in the hallway, grocery bag still in my hand, heart suddenly loud. I knew instantly. My ex still had a key. I walked to the kitchen, slow. The candle was gone. So was a bag of my good coffee. My laundry basket had been moved. A wet towel was hanging over my chair like someone owned the space. Then my ex stepped out of the bathroom, hair damp, wearing one of my oversized shirts like it was a joke. Oh, my ex said, like I was the one interrupting. Hey, my voice stayed even. What are you doing here? My ex blinked, offended by the question. I'm just grabbing a few things. I figured it was fine. We're friends. Friends, the word landed wrong, heavy, manipulative. My friends don't shower in my apartment when I'm not home, I said. My ex's face tightened. Why are you making it sound creepy? Because it is creepy, I said, and I surprised myself with how calm I sounded. My ex waved a hand toward the counter like it was evidence. I left a note. I looked down. There it was. A sticky note in my ex's handwriting. Borrowed some stuff. Hope that's cool. Borrowed. From the place my ex had just left. The audacity of that word almost made me laugh, but I didn't. I kept my face neutral, the way I do with difficult patients who insist they don't believe in appointments. I need the key, I said. Today, my ex scoffed. Seriously? My friends have keys. My friends don't let themselves in when I'm not here. I repeated, give me the key. My ex stared at me, jaw working like my boundary was a math problem that didn't make sense. Then my ex did something that was supposed to put me back in my place. My ex smiled, soft, pitying, like I was being emotional. Don't do this, my ex said gently. We can be adults. You're being petty. That smile was a switch flipping in my head because I realized my ex wasn't afraid of losing me. My ex was afraid of losing the benefits. I held my hand out, palm up, still silent. Finally, my ex dug into a pocket and tossed the key into my hand like it was a punishment. I caught it. I didn't say thank you. I didn't say anything. I just walked to my bedroom, pulled out my spare set of locks from the closet. Yes, I had them because I'm the kind of person who prepares, and set them on the bed. My ex followed, voice rising. You're seriously changing the locks? I'm rekeying them, I said. It's cheaper. And you don't live here. My ex's face flushed. I'm still on the lease. That was the moment, right there, when scene 3 began, and it wasn't about feelings anymore. It was about control. I looked at my ex and said, then we're going to handle this like adults, in writing. My ex hesitated just for a second, a flicker. Like the plan wasn't supposed to go into that territory. Like my ex expected tears, not paperwork. I turned my laptop screen toward myself, opened the lease portal, and started clicking. And that's when I saw it. An email confirmation, already open in the browser because my ex had been using my computer while borrowing stuff. It wasn't a random email. It was an application for a new apartment with my name listed under co-signer. My throat went tight, but my hands stayed steady on the mouse. My ex noticed my stillness and said too quickly, what are you doing? I didn't answer yet. I clicked the email, scanned the details, my address, my employer, my income typed out perfectly. Information my ex only had because I trusted my ex. I leaned back in my chair, the room suddenly very quiet. My ex stepped closer. Why are you on my email? I finally looked up and said, why is my name on your new lease application? My ex's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. And in that tiny stutter, I learned the real reason my ex wanted us to stay friends. It wasn't love. It wasn't maturity. It was leverage. My ex had already decided to leave, but wanted to take my stability on the way out. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even accuse. I just asked softly, how long have you been planning this? My ex swallowed. It's not like that. That sentence, it's not like that, is what people say when it is exactly like that. But they're hoping your emotions will blur the edges. I nodded once, like I believed it. Then I smiled, not a warm smile, a professional one. The kind I use right before I tell someone their insurance won't cover the procedure. And I already have a solution lined up. Okay, I said quietly. Then we're definitely going to do this like adults. And as my ex exhaled in relief, thinking my calm meant compliance, I saved that email, forwarded it to myself, and closed the laptop like I was done. But I wasn't done. I was just getting organized. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was heartbroken, because my brain wouldn't stop replaying the same image. My name typed neatly into a box that wasn't meant for me. Like I was a resource. Like I was a card my ex planned to swipe on the way out. By morning, my anger had cooled into something sharper. A plan. Not a revenge plan with screaming and public humiliation. Nothing dramatic, just quiet, clean consequences, delivered in the exact language my ex claimed to respect. Adults, friends, boundaries, writing. I got to work early, sat at my desk, and did what I always do when things get messy. I made a list. Apartment lease. Accounts, streaming, delivery apps, utilities. Phone plan, shared. Emergency contact, still listed at my job. Social circle, shared friends, weekly meetups. Work reputation, fragile if someone decides to play games. 4 fronts, 4 places my ex still had access. And for the first time since that let's be friends speech, I felt calm because I finally understood the rules of the new relationship. My ex was going to keep taking until I made taking inconvenient. At lunch, I stepped outside with my sandwich and called the leasing office. My voice was polite, friendly, even cheerful because that's the voice people trust. I confirmed my lease details, asked for the exact process to remove or replace a cosigner, and requested everything in an email. Then I called the apartment application portal. Yes, the one from the confirmation email I forwarded to myself. I didn't accuse. I didn't threaten. I didn't say my ex did this. I simply said, hi, my name is Elowen. I received notice that my name was entered as a cosigner on an application I did not authorize. I need to place a fraud alert on that file. The woman on the phone went quiet in that way. Adults go quiet when paperwork turns serious. I'm so sorry, she said. We'll lock the application immediately. Do you want to file a formal dispute? I'd like the application removed entirely, I said. And I'd like written confirmation that I'm not attached to it. Of course, she said, and her tone shifted into something firm and official. That was my first mini reward. A door quietly closing in my ex's face without my ex even realizing it yet. I went back inside, finished my shift, and drove home with the windows down like I needed fresh air to keep my mind clear. When I walked into the apartment, the place looked normal, quiet, safe, mine. But the normality didn't comfort me anymore. It made me angry. Because my ex had used this space like a convenience store. I set my keys on the counter, took off my shoes, and opened my laptop again. I didn't do a dramatic cut everything at once move. That would have been emotional, predictable. And my ex was the kind of person who used predictability to control the story. Instead, I did calm compliance. One account at a time, one boundary at a time, each with a reason that sounded boring, adult, and impossible to argue with. I changed the streaming passwords first, then the grocery delivery app, then the shared calendar. I updated the utility login and removed my ex's email from notifications. times. I left the phone plan for last because I knew that one would sting the most, and I didn't want to waste that sting on a day my ex wasn't paying attention. Then I drafted an email. Not a breakup email, not a fight. An adult friend's email. Subject, apartment plus logistics. It said, "Hi, to keep things calm and clear, I'm putting logistics in writing. You no longer have permission to enter the apartment without scheduling a pickup time. Please return any remaining keys or copies. If you need to retrieve belongings, we can choose 2-time windows next week. Also, I am not able to co-sign any housing applications. If my name appears on any paperwork, remove it immediately. Simple, clean, no insults, no emotion." I stared at it for a long time before sending it, because sending it meant officially admitting something to myself. My ex wasn't just leaving. My ex was trying to take me along like luggage. I pressed send. Then I sat on the couch and waited, like a person in a quiet room who knows the storm is about to hit. It didn't take long. My phone buzzed. "What is this email? Why are you being so extreme?" Extreme. Because I didn't want my identity used on paperwork without my consent. I typed back, "It's not extreme. It's clear." My ex replied, "I would never do anything shady. You're acting like I'm a criminal." I didn't answer that part. I didn't need to. Instead, I wrote, "If it was a mistake, please confirm you removed my name. Also, please pick 2-time windows next week to get your things." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "My sister says you're being controlling." I stared at that message and felt my mouth go dry, because here was the social front, the group narrative starting to shift. My ex wasn't going to fight me on facts. My ex was going to fight me on vibes. Controlling, petty, cold, vindictive. Those were the words people like my ex used when someone finally stopped being useful. I set my phone down and went to the bathroom to brush my teeth like I was preparing for bed. That's when I heard the knock. Not a gentle knock, not polite. The sharp kind that says, "Open up right now." I looked through the peephole. My ex and my ex's sister. 2 people standing there like they owned my evening. I opened the door just enough to stand in the frame. My ex smiled first. The sister didn't. "We need to talk." My ex said, voice sweet. The sister cut in. "What's your problem?" My pulse stayed steady, but my mind went bright and alert. This wasn't a visit. This was an intervention. "I already said everything in writing," I replied. My ex sighed like I was exhausting. "Why are you making it a legal thing?" "Because my name was on a lease application," I said, still calm, "without my consent." My ex's sister's eyes flicked just once toward my ex. A tiny micro twist, a crack, because that flick said one thing. She knew. My ex jumped in fast. It was a draft. My sister was helping me fill it out. It wasn't submitted. I looked straight at the sister and said, "Then you won't mind telling me what complex I applied to?" The sister blinked. My ex spoke over her. "Stop being dramatic." I kept my voice low. "Name the complex." Silence. My ex's sister's jaw tightened and she said, "It was just to see what you qualify for together. It's not a big deal." Together. The word hung in the hallway like a confession. My ex's smile faltered. "She didn't mean..." I nodded slowly, like I was hearing a patient admit they hadn't been flossing. "So it was planned," I said.
"Thank you."
My ex's sister stepped forward like she wanted to push past me. "You don't have to be like this. You two can be adults." I didn't move aside. I didn't raise my voice. I just asked, "Are you on my lease?" The sister scoffed. "No." "Then you don't get to stand in my doorway and tell me what I have to accept," I said, still soft. "This conversation is over." My ex's face tightened, and for the first time, the sweet voice slipped. "You're punishing me." My ex snapped. "No," I said. "I'm protecting myself." I started to close the door. My ex shoved a hand out, stopping it. The sister hissed, "You can't just lock her out of everything. She's on the phone plan, she's on..." And there it was, the practical front, the benefits list. My ex's sister wasn't defending feelings. She was defending access. I looked at my ex and said, "You wanted friendship. Friends don't share bills without agreements." My ex's eyes flashed. "So you're going to cancel my phone now too?" I paused and I let my face go blank, because sometimes the best revenge is letting people realize you were capable all along. "I'm going to move my own life forward," I said. Then I closed the door. My hands shook afterward, not from fear, from adrenaline. I leaned against the door and stared at the chain lock like it was the only thing keeping my peace intact. That night, my phone lit up again and again. Messages from my ex, calls from unknown numbers, a voicemail from the sister. "Just so you know," the voicemail said, dripping with judgment, "everyone can see what you're doing." Everyone. That word was a warning. And I knew what was coming next, because people like my ex always do the same thing when private control fails. They go public. The next day was Friday, which meant game night. Our friend group met every Friday at the same townhouse. Same snacks, same jokes, same comfortable routine that made it easy to pretend everything was fine. I almost didn't go. Then I remembered something important. If I stayed home, my ex would write the story without me in the room. So I went. I brought a bag of chips and my calmest smile. When I walked in, I felt the room shift. Tiny changes in posture, eyes tracking me, people trying to decide what side they were supposed to be on. My ex was already there, sitting too close to my best friend like they were anchoring themselves. The sister wasn't there, but her presence was, because my best friend's expression was tense, like someone had already been fed a version of me that didn't match the one standing in front of them. My ex looked up and did that sweet smile again. "Hey," my ex said, loud enough for people to hear. "I'm so glad you came. I was worried you'd be mad." Mad. Painting me as emotional, irrational, the villain. I set the chips down and said pleasantly, "Why would I be mad? We're friends." A few people laughed nervously. My ex's eyes narrowed, and that's when my best friend pulled me aside into the kitchen, voice low. "Okay," my best friend said. "What is going on?" "Because your ex is saying you're like going scorched earth." I took a slow breath. I didn't rush to defend myself. I didn't dump everything. I picked the right detail, the one that would make the whole room understand without me begging them to. I said softly, "My name was put on a housing application as a co-signer without my consent." My best friend froze. "What?" I nodded once. "I have the confirmation email." I handled it quietly. "I just asked for boundaries." My best friend's face changed, because that wasn't scorched earth. That was alarming. That was adult. That was real. My best friend swallowed. good. Your ex told me you were just being bitter. I gave a small, tired smile. I'm not bitter. I'm just not available for being used. My best friend stared at me for a long second, then said, show me. I opened my phone and pulled up the forwarded email. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't say, see? I'm right. I just held the screen out. My best friend read it, eyes scanning fast. Then my best friend's jaw tightened and the next words were quiet but deadly. Oh, wow. That was the second mini reward. The right person seeing the truth at the right time. Behind us, the living room noise kept going. Dice clacking, someone laughing too loud. But in the kitchen, everything felt still. My best friend handed my phone back and said, I need a minute. Then my best friend walked straight into the living room, right into the center of the group and said, can we pause for a second? The room went quiet. My ex sat up straighter, already preparing the victim face. My best friend looked at my ex and said, did you put Eloan's name on a lease application? My ex's smile didn't just fade, it cracked. And in that crack, I saw panic because now my ex couldn't control the story with emotions. Now it was about a yes or no fact. My ex laughed nervously. What? No, that's my best friend held up a hand. I saw the email. Just answer. Everyone watched. My ex's eyes flicked around the room, searching for someone to rescue them. No one moved. My ex swallowed and said, it was just a draft. It wasn't submitted. My best friend's voice stayed flat. So yes? My ex snapped, it wasn't a big deal. And that right there was the micro twist on the social front, the mask slipping in public. Because normal people don't say identity misuse isn't a big deal. The room changed again, but this time it changed toward me. Not sympathy. Something more solid. Respect. My ex's face flushed, and my ex looked at me like I'd betrayed them by not staying quiet. I kept my voice calm and said, I didn't bring it up. I just answered honestly. My ex's lips trembled. Then my ex grabbed their jacket and stood up. This is ridiculous. My ex spat, voice sharp now. You're trying to make me look crazy. My best friend said, you did that by yourself. My ex stormed out. And as the door slammed, the group exhaled, like the air had been heavy without them realizing. For the first time in weeks, I felt the social front shift in my favor. Not because I begged, but because I let the truth travel through the right mouth. But I wasn't celebrating. Because I knew people like my ex don't stop when they lose a room. They look for a bigger stage. And my bigger stage was my job. Monday morning, the front desk lead waved me over before I could even hang my coat. Hey, she said softly, eyes darting toward the hallway. Your boss wants to see you. Like, now. My stomach didn't drop. It sharpened because I knew exactly what stage my ex would choose next. I walked past the waiting room, past the fish tank bubbling quietly, past the little sign that said smile in cheerful letters. The sign suddenly felt mocking. My boss's door was half open. I knocked anyway. Come in, my boss said, voice careful. Inside, my boss wasn't alone. HR was there too, our office manager, seated with a notepad and the kind of expression people wear when they're about to say, this is serious and we don't want you to panic. My boss gestured to the chair. Sit. I sat. HR cleared their throat. We got a call this morning. I kept my face neutral. From my ex. My boss blinked, caught off guard. You already know? I can guess, I said. My voice stayed smooth, polite. The same voice I use when a patient is angry about a bill and I still need them to hear me. HR slid a sticky note across the desk. On it was a phone number I recognized in my bones. My boss said, they claimed they were your emergency contact. My jaw tightened. They're not. HR nodded slowly. They told us you were having a mental health episode, that you were unsafe, that we needed to send you home and make sure you didn't drive. My boss looked genuinely uncomfortable. They sounded convincing. I exhaled once carefully because they practiced sounding convincing. My boss leaned forward. Eloan, are you okay? I met my boss's eyes. I'm fine. I'm being harassed. HR's pen paused midair. Harassed? I didn't rush. I didn't pour out every detail. I chose the detail that mattered most in a workplace. Documented reality. I have an email where my name was used as a cosigner without consent, I said. I have messages demanding access to my home after the breakup, and I can show you the written boundaries I sent. My boss's shoulders loosened, like someone had finally given them something solid to hold. HR nodded once. We need to protect you here, but we also need to document that call. I already started documenting, I said. That part was true, but what I didn't say out loud was this. I had started documenting because somewhere deep down, I knew my ex would aim for the one place I couldn't afford chaos. My job isn't just a job. It's my stability, my rent, my health insurance, my quiet. HR said, do you want to file a formal complaint? I thought about it, not emotionally, strategically. If I said no, my ex would keep escalating. If I said yes, my ex would paint me as dramatic. So I did what my ex hated most. I chose the boring adult path that leaves no room for interpretation. Yes, I said. I want a formal record. I don't want this happening again. My boss nodded. We can block the number. We can instruct staff not to share your schedule. And if your ex shows up, they won't get past the lobby. HR finished. I almost smiled, because that was another door closing quietly, but the day wasn't done. At lunch, while I was confirming appointments and answering calls with my customer service voice, the front desk lead leaned in again, eyes wide. They called back, she whispered. My fingers froze over the keyboard. HR appeared at the corner like they'd been waiting. Come with me, HR said. We went into the back office. My boss was there again, and this time my boss's phone was on the desk, screen lit. My boss looked frustrated now, not worried, not uncertain, angry. They left a voicemail, my boss said, and I want you to hear it because I don't want anyone twisting what was said. My heartbeat stayed steady, but my skin went cold anyway, because there's something uniquely violating about your private life echoing through a workplace. My boss hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen. Ready? I nodded once. Before my boss hit play, tell me this. If someone tried to wreck your job just because they couldn't control you, would you stay quiet, or would you let them show everyone who they really are? All right, now let me take you back. The night after game night, after my ex stormed out and the group finally saw the crack in the mask, I didn't go home and celebrate. I went home and prepared. I updated my emergency contact contact at work immediately. I changed it to my cousin, someone calm, someone consistent, someone my ex couldn't charm. I emailed HR a simple line, please update my file. My previous contact is no longer authorized to receive any information about me. Then I called my phone carrier and separated the plan. Not in anger, in policy. I walked through the steps like I was canceling a free trial. When the carrier asked, would you like to notify the other line? I said, no, I'd like the change effective immediately. That was my deadline trap. Quiet, clean, legal. I also emailed building management. One paragraph, no drama. Just, my former partner no longer has permission to access my unit. If there are any questions about keys, please contact me directly. And then, this was the part that mattered most, I stopped speaking on the phone. I kept everything in writing, because when someone's weapon is storytelling, your shield is a paper trail. Now, back to the voicemail. My boss pressed play. My ex's voice filled the office, loud and bright and furious in a way I'd never heard in public. You can't do this to me, the voice snapped. You're ruining my life on purpose. You think you're so perfect, acting calm, acting adult. There was a sharp inhale, like my ex was pacing while speaking. I swear, if you don't fix this, if you don't put me back on the phone plan and stop telling people lies, I will make sure everyone at your job knows you're unstable. I already told them. I can tell them more, then softer, almost sweet again, like a threat wrapped in sugar. They'll believe me. They always believe me. The voicemail ended. Silence. The kind of silence that makes the air feel heavier. HR's pen didn't move. My boss's face had gone tight in a way I'd never seen. My boss said slowly, they threatened you on our voicemail. On record. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just nodded, like a person receiving lab results they already expected. HR finally spoke. We're saving that. We're adding it to the report. And we're advising you to consider a protective order. My boss leaned back, exhaling hard. I'm also calling building security. If they come here, we call the police. I swallowed, and for the first time in weeks, my eyes stung. Not from sadness, from relief, because this was the payoff moment. I hinted at in the beginning, my ex thought I'd be humiliated, but hearing that voicemail out loud didn't shame me. It exposed my ex. My ex had built a whole identity on sounding reasonable, and the voicemail showed the truth. Control, entitlement, and rage the second access was denied. That afternoon, HR had me sit in a small conference room while they made copies of everything. Emails, screenshots, the lease application confirmation, the voicemail file. My boss asked if I wanted to go home. I said no, I want to finish my shift, because staying wasn't about being tough. It was about refusing to be moved like furniture. When my shift ended, I walked out like normal, shoulders back, keys ready. I didn't rush. I didn't scan the parking lot like prey. And still, my ex found a way. At home, there was a note taped to my door. Not a polite note. A thick envelope, pressed flat like it had been slapped there with anger. Inside was a printed form, an application for a new phone, plan, filled out in my handwriting. Except it wasn't my handwriting. My name was signed at the bottom. My signature. Forged. I stared at it for a long time, my hands trembling now for real. Because the voicemail was ugly, but this was different. This was action. This was fraud. And suddenly everything clicked into place with horrifying clarity. My ex wasn't spiraling randomly. My ex was trying to force a reality where I still carried them, even if they had to drag me into it. I took a photo of the form. Then I did the quietest, most devastating thing I could do. I emailed it to HR. Subject, additional documentation. One sentence in the body. This was left on my door today. The signature is not mine. Then I drove to the police station. No tears, no begging, no dramatic speech, just facts. The officer looked at the voicemail transcript, listened to the file, looked at the forged form, and said the words that finally ended the fantasy my ex had been living in. This is not a breakup issue. This is harassment. The temporary order came fast. Not because I had a dramatic story, because I had evidence. My ex tried to fight it at first, showed up to the hearing dressed softly, voice gentle, eyes watery. My ex tried to paint me as cold, controlling, vindictive. Then the judge asked, do you have any record of threats? And my lawyer, quiet, bored, professional, played the voicemail. In that courtroom, the sweet voice was gone. The mask couldn't survive its own audio. My ex's face changed as their own words echoed back at them. The judge didn't look at me with pity. The judge looked at my ex with exhaustion. The order was granted. Clear distance. No contact. No third-party contact. No workplace contact. Closed. Satisfying. But the fallout didn't stop there. Because when the phone company investigated the forged signature, they flagged my ex's account for fraud. When the apartment portal reviewed the cosigner incident, they logged it as unauthorized use of personal information. And when my boss heard the voicemail, my boss did something I didn't expect. The next staff meeting, my boss stood in front of the team and said, I need everyone to understand that LON is being harassed. If anyone receives calls, messages, or surprise visits from a third party asking about her, do not engage. Send it to me in HR immediately. No names, no gossip, just protection. And in that moment, my workplace became what my home had become. A place my ex couldn't enter anymore. My ex emailed once afterward, because people like that always want the last word. It was a long message about how I turned everyone against them, how I made them look crazy, how I won. I didn't reply. I just forwarded it to my lawyer, then blocked the address. A month later, my best friend from game night invited me to a smaller hangout. No drama, no tension, just a few people who felt safe again. I showed up with chips like before, and nobody looked at me like I was a problem. They looked at me like I was steady. That night, someone toasted to boundaries, half joking. I laughed, and it came out real. And the final twist, the one that still makes my stomach flip when I think about it, came in a plain white letter from the building office. Inside was a returned spare key, not mine, a copy. My ex had made it at some point, quietly, secretly, and had never mentioned it. Building management wrote, a key labeled with your unit number was found in the mailroom trash. We are returning it to you. Locks should be rekeyed if you have concerns. I held that little piece of metal in my palm and and felt a chill run through me because it meant the let's be friends speech was never about friendship. It was always about access. I rekeyed the locks again the next day. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't post about it. I didn't make it a scene. I just shut the last door. And here's the part that still feels like a mic drop when I say it out loud. My ex didn't miss me. My ex missed the version of me that never said no.